Okay. Yeah, that's it. And I'm free, yeah. Free falling. What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here. Today we're going to make a confession. It's something that I should have said a long time ago here on the channel. For someone trying to compete in the professional division, I do not throw far. It feels so good to get that off my chest, especially because I've never said it here before. Maybe we have mentioned it once or twice, but I want to relate how I'm feeling about competing in MPO layouts to how some of you are feeling on the layouts that you're playing. So stop me if this sounds familiar. When I'm stepping up to these gold or professional or extra long layouts, because of how far I throw, I know that a birdie is definitely not on the table when I'm playing the hole, and most often it's so far that if I throw one okay or bad shot, not only is par also off the table, but a bogey is immediately my best option. And for lots of people, I know that's how you can feel when you play even normal layouts that everyone else seems to be having an easy time with. So if you're feeling that pain, I want to say, trust me, you're not alone, and I totally get where you're coming from, because that feeling can definitely follow you even as you progress in your game. When it comes to finding information on how to throw farther, there is no shortage of advice or teachers, especially out here on the internet. You can learn from the beautiful and majestic Josh at Overthrow, or you can go back and learn from Senpai Danny over at Dynamic Discs. There seems to be this hard rubber meets the road moment where no matter how much things have clicked while I watch the video sitting in my office or I'm laying on the couch thinking about how I can implement that into my next round, we never seem to be able to implement those actual changes into our form. But there comes a moment where we're going to need to be able to throw farther. And this exact struggle that we're talking about of implementing changes into our form is something that I am feeling in my own game right now. I've got one of my last tournaments of the year tomorrow, and it's my third year playing this event, and it is absolutely one of the longest, if not the longest, course that I'll play all year long. So rather than just playing some more rounds this week, I went to the field and tried to make sure that my distance drivers were dialed, my putts were dialed, and my upshots were dialed. But when I hit those distance drivers, all the frustration and anger came back. Things were coming out super early and not having any spin on them, and then I get frustrated and yank over on them and hold on to them for too long. It was just like a really frustrating process. I did what I advise so many people to do. I pulled my phone out and I started recording my throws. I made a video about it here on the channel, and it was this idea of feel versus real. What I felt like I was doing with changes in my form and separating and delaying everything as much as I was supposed to, I actually was not doing in reality and had reverted back to some terrible old habits, which is why I'd lost a significant part of my distance. Taking a look at my form, I saw three major problems right off the bat. The first is that my hands were separating way too early. This got my timing off for engaging the entire left side to join the throw, which adds a ton of power. The second thing I noticed is that my head was majorly leaning into the throw. This would cause me to lose power in my brace and be off balance, and once again would take away from the power, which gave me less distance. And the final place I was struggling was that by getting over with my head and coming in too early with my left side, I wasn't actually engaging my hips in the throw at all. So knowing I had these issues, were once again at the problem of this video: how do I implement them? And that is where my guy Randy comes in. Now, you've heard me talk about Randy in previous videos, but one thing that you don't know about Randy is that Randy is like the king of having so many talents. Randy's like a super talented oil painter. He knows how to fly planes. He's a graphic designer. He does underwater basket weaving. He has his clown license. I'm sorry, that's more directly translated to he's a Yankees fan. But Randy is also an incredibly talented musician. And one day while we were talking about field work, Randy reminded me of a lesson that he learned while he was learning music. And that is that when you are learning to play a difficult stretch of chords or a difficult part of a song, the teacher will often tell you to slow it down to a point that it does not even sound like the song anymore. It doesn't matter how fast you can play it if you're playing it incorrectly. You need to teach your fingers how to play the chord in such a slow motion that you're still learning it correctly. And y'all are some smart cookies out there, so I bet you can see where this is going. He said, maybe gonna be the one that saves me. No, is that still not it. For some reason, I can stay super calm when I throw mids and putters and not feel like I need to put a ton of power or oomph into them, which generally causes me to throw them better. Yet when I put a distance driver or even sometimes a fairway driver in my hand, I just start thinking to myself, all right, Crawford, time to be that guy. Be the big man today. Which is pretty frightening internally. So me, the guy who teaches people how to play disc golf for a living, who's been playing disc golf for over 10 years, I decided to go back to a one-step. I wanted to see what it felt like to separate my hands during that final stride and that final stride alone. And what I noticed is that I was still getting a pretty fantastic amount of power, even without having the run-up added to my throw. But even in just doing the one-step, I noticed that my head was still leaning and that my hips were not engaging as much as I wanted them to. So once again, embracing the musician's method rather than learning it incorrectly, let's go back to the slowest or most basic form possible to learn the proper way to throw a disc. And where that ended for me was the no step. I knew that not having to worry about my front foot extending and any of that, I could engage my hips and focus on keeping my head upright while I threw the disc. And this led to the coolest teaching moment to myself and hopefully for y'all as well. I know a lot of you are thinking to yourself that if you go back to the no step or the one step, that you're going to lose all of this power that you guys have built up, and it's going to create these seasons where you're just horrific at disc golf and you don't have any distance. So I tested both. I threw several shots using my normal run up, not thinking about my form at all and just letting it fly as it's supposed to go. Most of these shots were about what I expected, and sometimes I would get a hold of it and absolutely crank onto one, but while it would fly far, it would fly far in the wrong direction as well. When I switched to the no step and just focused on throwing everything correctly and trying to do the right procedures and the right technique, my shots became incredibly consistent and they landed at about the exact same place as all of my normal throws, and they landed maybe 20 feet short of my best drives when I was throwing with my normal form, and I eliminated the inconsistency of yanking stuff way offline. So what does this mean for me and my game, and what does this mean for you? Well, what it means for me is that during this off season, I've got a lot of work to do, and we're going to be starting literally from the basics. We are going to start from the standstill and work our way back up when we not only feel like we have it dialed, but we know that we have it dialed because we see it happening on the video. And for you, and I want to encourage you, that there's always time to improve, and one of the biggest ways that you can find that improvement is by getting video of your form. My biggest encouragement there would be to ask a friend to, during the round, without you knowing, video you throwing at least 2 different times. Often when we turn the camera on, we end up not throwing how we normally throw, we throw how we think we're supposed to throw, and it doesn't lead to helping us actually improve our form. But the biggest takeaway for me overall is the idea that the right stuff is indeed the best stuff. Sure, adding a James Conrad run up from about 800 feet back and then running onto the pad might give you a little extra power every now and again, but using your body's levers the correct way, and I don't mean by like trying to cranking things together and hugging yourself and like trying to eject the disc out into the stratosphere, but I do know it is a much tougher ask to try to figure out how to get your body to work together when we're doing it at normal speed rather than teaching ourselves at the most basic or slowest level possible to ensure that we're learning it right. So I'm going to close things out with a little bit of transparency and possibly me being a little bit of a hypocrite. For my tournament this weekend, am I going to be throwing standstills on every single throw, knowing that that is the road towards my best form? No. I'm not, but that's because I know there is a lot of change coming here to the channel in 2023, and those changes are going to allow me to work on my form. I just don't have the time to make those changes in 3 or 4 days. You're never going to solve all of your disc golf problems in one putting session or all of your distance woes in one fieldwork session. It's a process, and one that I cannot wait to dive into starting next week. In the meantime, we're going to use our tee shots as an opportunity to dive one step closer into our strengths, which is putting and up shots. With all that said, if you're going to be joining me in the form change journey, let me know in the comments below. What are you looking to work on during this off season? And who knows, maybe we can have like some accountability with one another. Let's say thank you for watching, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for the continued support. It wasn't for each and every one of you, the changes that are coming to the channel in 2023, they just wouldn't be possible. Thank you so much, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your week and that you can make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, I'm going to leave you with the birdie.